Welcome, my brothers and sisters, to this evening's presentation of Mango Tree Dialogues. I'm very happy that you've been able to join me under the mango tree this evening. Welcome, my brothers and sisters, this evening's presentation of Mango Tree Dialogues. I'm very happy that you've been able to join me under the mango tree this evening. Sorry, friends, for that little technical glitch, but here we are again then. I was welcoming you to the program this evening and for having joined me under the mango tree. And I hope that the issues that I will discuss will be of interest to you as they have been to me. And that, as we go through these, especially as I'll be dealing with matters relating to Jamaica this evening exclusively, for us to think of what is happening in our country and what each citizen has to do in each of the areas that I will mention. That we have a responsibility. And I think if there was ever a time when civics and civic responsibility should be uppermost in our minds in our country, then that time is now. All right, so welcome. We know that you could be somewhere else, and it gives me I'm very grateful to you that you decide to join me here this evening as we discuss matters, as I said, of interest to you and as well as to me. Friends, before I even jump into what I want to discuss, do you realize that we're just 2 weeks away from Christmas? Almost 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks. But, and it's as if the season has just descended on us. And I know that even though you might have been preparing for it from the longest time, that somehow there is a kind of pressing urgency as the time rolls on into December 25. Yeah, 2 weeks. And many of us are, well, let me speak for myself. I've not even caught our bearings as yet. And here we are. But let me wish for you as you plan and as you move towards that celebration, that you keep safe, that you keep things in perspective, that you do not overspend, as I know the spending has started, and that you do not come into the new year or the first week after Christmas with all kinds of moaning and groaning because of having, maxed out your credit card or, incurred debts that you now have to confront. Just a few words, but I don't want to dampen your Christmas celebration. So enjoy it as we move towards it. All right, now to the matters that I want to really talk about this evening. There are three, in fact. And the first has to do with crime in Jamaica, racism, that ugly racism that is beginning to emerge in our political discourse. And then I would like finally to say a few thoughts about the rollout of the government's Spark program. And Spark really is, we are given to acronyms in Jamaica. Almost every big program has some acronym, Path, Spark, Hope, just to name a few. But and this is a very big acronym, I guess, for the what is being undertaken, I guess the project that is being undertaken. But we'll talk about that later. And I tell you what Spark is and what the program is hoping to achieve. All right, so let me go to crime in Jamaica. This is easy. Crime is easily one of the most difficult and hard problems to solve in any country. You will always have in any country those who will want to do things that are contrary to the law. So let us begin there. And let us admit that. Let us concede that where human beings gather, there are always those who will not believe or at least function as if they are constrained by the laws and the conventions that govern society. That's almost a given. And so when we talk about crime in Jamaica, I mean, that is exactly where we are. There are about 3 million, probably a little over 3 million people living in the country in a small land space, really, when you really think about it, surrounded by the sea. And yet we have what has been described and what has been so for quite some time. One of the most crime-ridden or murderous countries on the face of the earth. There was a time when we hovered in the top 5. And if my memory serves me correctly, there was one year when we were designated almost on top of the pile in the Caribbean, in the world. Not even in some of the strife-torn areas of the world at the time, like Somalia, where gang lords and warlords ruled the day, or even the murderous cartels in Mexico and Latin America, had the kind of murderous per capita murders that Jamaica has. Even today, we are ranked among the highest, certainly in this region. And so there are some very difficult questions and serious questions that we have to ask ourselves. Why is it that we are such a murderous country? The last report by the JCF, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, they put out reports from time to time as to the murder statistics that are in the country. And not the crime statistics on a whole. But of course, most prominent among them is the murder statistics. That's what people look out for. Lives are being lost. Families are being destroyed. Even more so than somebody breaking in and stealing. And they put out the last report that they had was that there was a 13% reduction in murders from January to November 30, as compared to last in 2023. Is this supposed to give us some comfort that we're getting on top of the problem? I think not. Because one murder is one too many. And we have had so many. We have averaged, I would say, over the past 20 years, almost 1,000 murders per year, most of it by the gun. And what is happening recently in the trend in crime is that a lot of the murders that are taking place, I think there was a statistic that there was about 40% of the murders that are are committed are related to domestic situations, people quarreling over land or deadlift, as they call it. People not being able to sit down and to work out their differences. People being taken out because one person disagrees and decide that they're going to carry out some extrajudicial killing of that person. They hire hitmen to go out and do their dastardly deeds. That trend has been exacerbated or made worse by the emergence of scamming in the country. And this doesn't, despite all the best efforts of the authorities, they have not really succeeded in stopping the scamming as a pursuit by many, I would say largely young people, young men especially. I go to Mandeville, for example, or and Manchester in general. There was a time when you could really see Manchester as a sleepy parish, but now it has been woken up. And I believe that the level of criminality, gun violence, murders that we are seeing in Mandeville now is as a result of criminals migrating from St. Catherine into Clarendon and from Clarendon into Manchester and then going on into St. Elizabeth because things were heating up down there not long ago as well. But when you look at what is happening in Mandeville, in Manchester, 47 murders so far this year. 47. For a once quiet, sleepy parish, Mandeville has been rocked. The authorities have had to impose curfews on sections of Mandeville. And the police have identified that one of the big reasons that you have such a high murder rate in Manchester and especially in the Mandeville Christiana area has to do with people involved in scamming. So it's a very serious problem. And we can talk until the cows come home. But we're not going to solve this problem until we recognize as a country that this is not a problem that can be solved by the security forces alone. We curse them, we holler at them, we say all kinds of things about them, what they're doing or what they're not doing. And frankly, sometimes they are part of the problem, but not a large part of the problem to the extent that citizens can think that they can escape their civic responsibility in seeing to it that they cannot give any kind of comfort to criminals in the communities. Because these criminals, when they go out and do their dastardly behaviors, they're going to come home. And they come home to the communities. They come home to families. If they have been blooded, they take their clothes and they wash it. So let us not try to mask the situation and to think that we can fob off what is happening to the security forces alone. This has to be what they call a joined up effort between citizen and police. And let us be very frank, the police has a lot of blame to take onto itself. But let us be quite clear that there has been marked improvements in the behavior of the police. There was a time when extrajudicial killing by the police was almost expected. And although there was some worrying statistics recently, by and large, this problem has been largely cauterized by the coming of Indicom and police are less are less are more wary. Let me put it that way. That there is an oversight body that is watching over them, and that means business. Quite a number of them have been indicted by this body, by Indicom, and that's a good thing. So by and large, things have improved. You have a better quality of men and women inside the force now who take their work very seriously. Also, we have to give honor where honor is due, praise where praise is due. On this program, we try to talk the truth at all times. The government, successive governments, but especially this government, has got to be commended for the amount of money that has been spent in upgrading the security forces, getting more boots on the ground, looking at their residences and taking care of upgrading those facilities and making life a bit more habitable for them. But most importantly, there has been a marked improvement in the surveillance capacity and the intelligence gathering mechanisms of the force. They're getting better. They're not quite there yet. They're getting there, and they're getting better in identifying and following up on crimes and being able to arrest people who are involved in these crimes. And I think to a large extent, take the gangs, for example. At one time, there were over 300 gangs in Jamaica. That figure has fallen now to, the last time I saw it, over 160 gangs. And I think it has fallen further. The truth is that the police have been out there and they have been dismantling gangs. And it is very important that they do that. You only have to think about Haiti next door to see how important it is to keep these gangs under control and to eradicate them. And perhaps with the mass shooting that we're seeing, one of the things that, let me just break off here and say, friends, that one of the things, is that we have to understand that in Jamaica, a good 90% or more of the people are law abiding. When they talk, oh, Jamaica is a criminal country and so on, not true. The large percentage of Jamaicans are law-abiding citizens who just want to get on with their day-to-day activities. They're just a smidgen, especially of young people, young men especially, who have been lost on the way to making a better go at life, who are involved in these gangs. It could be probably less than 5% of the population. I would like to wager it's probably about 2% of the population, without going out there and doing my statistical analysis and research. But I don't think I could be easily confounded by anybody to say that. So the point I'm making, friends, is that the large percentage of Jamaicans are law-abiding. They're not involved in any crime, not even petty crimes. The large proportion of Jamaicans are breaking down people's doors or trying to rob them. Worse, killing them with the gun or hiring a hitman to go down to wherever and snuff them out. And it doesn't matter how many people that may be standing in a bar having a few liquor. You spray them down. Most Jamaicans not doing that. So let us get this thing in perspective. And it is that large contingent of citizenry that I'm calling upon tonight and asking them to recognize. If you don't say these things, sometimes people don't hear what ought to be heard. So I'm making an appeal. Migratory Dialogues is making an appeal to that large contingent of citizenry out there to make your stand. Let us report crime to the police. Oh, but they might be reporting to a criminal. You hear some people say. Let us be fair and know that that has changed, and there are ways in which you can get in touch and get information to the police without having to fear that you're going to be called out by some rogue cop. There are mechanisms. And so we have to get on top of the gangs. If Haiti is any reminder, then we will see the extent to which we need to do that. But right now, Haiti is an ungovernable society. And why has it become so? Because gangs saw a vacuum in the ungovernable nature of that society. A great vacuum of leadership was created, and gang just moved in. Violence just moved in and occupied territory. And now they're trying to flush them out. Gangs virtually control Port-au-Prince, the capital. Wherever you go, you have that problem in Haiti. And it's going to be very hard to dislodge them, short of a bloodbath. So the Kenyans are down there and Jamaicans are down there, other groups are down there. But it is hardly enough. And I hardly think it's going to make a dent in what is happening down there. There has to be a collective will on the part of the United Nations to get things right, however they do it. It's like a piecemeal, sending a force down there to do this. I mean, they had a prime minister. It didn't last 6 months. The council that was set up to govern the country and appointed this prime minister 6 months, and he's out under all kinds of charges. Let's see how long the one that succeeded him will last. By the way, that's Haiti. But all I'm saying, friends, is that Haiti is not on Mars. It is just, it's our closest neighbor. We have to know what that means. I wouldn't be surprised that a lot of the organization of gangsterism in Jamaica, certainly the supply of weapons to these gangsters, comes through Haiti and the gangs in Haiti. So I'm going to end off here and just say that, there's no point in us cursing the police. There's no point in us. Yes, we must keep them under surveillance. I'm not saying that we shouldn't. We must have them under scrutiny and vigilance all the time. They mustn't think at any time that our eyes are off them. But let us be fair. And let us recognize where we as citizens have a responsibility to play. And that when we make a lot of noise, we must identify where we should fit in as part of the solution and not just griping about the problem. Report what you see. It's as simple as that. All right, so I'm going to break off there and then I go to the next subject that I wanted to share with you this evening. And that has to do with the emergence of racism in our politics in recent times. Sadly, this has been a problem in the whole political architecture of Jamaica for the longest while. It became abundantly so during the long presence, let me put it that way, of Mr. Edward Seaga as the leader of the Jamaica Labour Party, the other major political party. He's deceased now, so he was a white man seeking to rule a 90% black population. But I've studied the career of Mr. Seaga ever since he entered, from he entered the political sphere of historical studies, and I've lived through a great portion of his being in the modern political life of Jamaica, certainly as Prime Minister. And if the truth be told, Mr. Seaga, despite him being white in a predominantly black population, I think conducted himself in such a way as to not to present any credible, and I'm choosing my words carefully here, not to present any credible suggestion that he was biased, racially biased, or against people, or enacted programs on the basis of any racist consideration. I would really challenge anybody to bring any evidence. There's talk about the black scandal bag, for example. And it's a mischaracterization because of what his intention was. And that was ironed out. And the PNP came around and accepted that it was not any attack upon Mr. P.J. Patterson, who was the leader of the PNP at the time and running. When they're on the stage, all kinds of things happen. And he made this reference in that black scandal bag where he was talking about the various scandals of the PNP and enumerating them and like packing them into a black scandal bag, and people ran with it that he was calling Patterson a black scandal bag. But as I said, the PNP came to the conclusion that there wasn't anything to that in terms of racism, but yet it persists today because perceptions never die. But anyway, but I challenge anybody to say that he was not a patriotic Jamaican. He was born in Boston, native born in Boston. And when he came to Jamaica with his parents, and he decided to enter the political fray, the Constitution did not allow for an American, Commonwealth citizens, yes, but not of any other country outside of the Commonwealth, to be able to sit in Parliament. So what did he do? He gave up that citizenship. Remember, it was a naturalized citizen, where you just go and you apply and you become citizen. He was born there, he was a native citizen. He gave that up so that he could enter the Jamaican political fray. And he did so a tremendous sacrifice. What could he might have become if he had stayed and decided, I'm not giving up my citizenship to go and serve those black people? What if he had said that? You'd hear something else. So I just want to kind of keep the things on even keel and keep the thing truthful as best as we can make it, and as we should make it. The bottom line is that Mr. Edward Seaga was a patriotic Jamaican who served his country to the best of his ability. He made many mistakes, was vilified many times in many areas, and sometimes justly so. But he was not a racist in the way he conducted his government promulgated his policies and executed them for the people of Jamaica. That having been said, now we go to Mr. Mark Golding. Mr. Mark Golding also is a white man. Just try to get things in perspective. His dad was Dr. Golding, who was instrumental in the rehabilitation of disabled persons working in Kingston. And Mark Golding was born a Jamaican, albeit a white Jamaican. He can't have any control over how he was born. That's one thing none of us has any control over. To whom, where we were born. You can't say the woman control that. And now, very interestingly, and I would say it's a kind of irony, perhaps a cruel irony, that the very party that vilified Siaga back in the day, that the same party that had occasion to, as far as they were concerned, to speak of him as a racist, that it is that party today that now has a white person as the head of the party. And so you find now that there are members of the Jamaica Labour Party who are vilifying Mr. Golding on the basis of his skin. That one prominent JLP spokesperson, a veteran in the party, a man who is known to sound off and say all kinds of egregious things in the public without any kind of, constraint on some of the things that he says. He said he's going to work hard to make sure that, he's not ruled over by any white man. And there are others in the JLP who seem to have harbored that kind of sentiment. And vilifying Golding now on the basis of him being white. And I am saying, Mango Tree Dialogues is saying tonight that must stop. It must stop. Because you can't be commending yourself to the people of Jamaica and you start off with that kind of rotten politics, a politics that has proven to be very destructive of people's reputations in the past. And then you come to people wanting their votes, asking them to hire you. Because I keep telling people, that is what politicians are doing when they come to you asking for your vote. They're seeking a job. They're seeking to sit in your parliament. They're seeking to be your prime minister. They're seeking to be your cabinet minister. So just treat them as people coming to you asking for a job. And you must find out whether you want to employ them or not. And I would like to say tonight that you should never employ any politician who uses racism as a conduit to get to political power. Don't reward that kind of behavior. They're insulting your intelligence because they want to pull you down into the gutter, down to a point where you are equal with them in the swamp. And you must resist that. I'm going to resist it, and I think I'm doing it tonight. That kind of politics should never be rewarded, and we must step on it. Interestingly, I've not heard the top echelons of the Jamaica Labour Party condemn that spokesperson who spouted at some meeting against Golding, and who at the conference, one of the ladies and the leading ladies and in the PNP, in the JLP, hinting that too. And it's beginning to be stirred up. We cannot go back to a time of that kind of politics. It is what the people want to see happen is that you discuss the issues of the day, show them how you're going to better their lives, show them, help them to understand what are the policies that you're going to be coming with that can enhance their prospect of getting a better job, being able to put food on the table, being able to take care of their children, to get them to school, being able to live, work, and enjoy themselves in that beautiful country of ours. That's what they want to hear. They don't want any insulting diatribe. We saw that in the American election, and we must fight against that. One of the worst aspects of the recently concluded American election was the kind of diatribe, that was meted out on to persons on the political platforms from both camps, even more so on the Republican side, but still name callings and so on, the fascism and all that sort of thing. Though you're making a point, but if you are going to come out and call somebody all out fascist and all these sort of things, then they're going to come back with a different kind of thing to hit you back. And that back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then you don't get no issue discussed. And people are shortchanged because they don't know what to vote for, really. So we don't want to see it happening in Jamaica. And we must put a stop to it. The top echelon of the party. I've not heard them talk about this. In the JLP, and Mr. Honis and his communication directorate must state categorically where they stand on this issue. And I hope that they will stand in a way that they say it is not acceptable and put a stop to it before it is too late. We don't have a lot of time for foolishness. People are quite capable of picking sense out of nonsense. You don't have to try to insult their intelligence with your racist diatribes. Enough of that. All right, and the last issue that I'd want to just quickly mention this evening, is that of the Spark program. Well, let me just quickly tell you what that acronym is. As I said, there's a short for these acronyms. Spark, shared prosperity through accelerated improvement in our road networks. All right, friends? Shared prosperity. But the JLP ran on this bandwagon of prosperity. Shared prosperity through accelerated improvement in our road network, Spark. That, when big programs like these are announced before general elections, people tend to think that, something is up and that the party is trying to curry favor votes. But one must be honest, as we try to do here, and recognize that this program is not something that just came up yesterday. The government had been talking about it for a very long time. They had to be able to identify the funds. And when Dr. Nigel Clark was Minister of Finance, this was a large part of the portfolio that he was pursuing to make sure that the monies were available for this program. It is $45 billion. And the good thing about this is that It is not borrowed money. It is our own revenue. For the first time in our lifetime, we are seeing a very big program, the biggest road improvement program in the history of Jamaica, as far as I can identify. If I'm wrong, please point it out. 45 billion and not a penny borrowed. That's a significant achievement, when you really think about it. Because big programs like these in the past were always accompanied by us going to the Paris Club or someplace abroad, some bilateral arrangement to get money, to fund them. So that's a kudo and part of the government. A second important aspect of this program uh, is the involvement of the communities in the whole process. What the government has done is that work is going to be done in all constituencies. They have asked the members of the members of parliament in each constituency to sit with their people, organize town halls or whatever, and for people to identify and point out the roads that they want to have fixed in their constituency. That is a democratization of the process. And that is good, not just for the democracy, but for the well-being of the people to know that they are critical stakeholders in this thing. I'm sure now that they can say, hey, we're watching how you're doing that road, and if I see you putting in just like a centimeter of asphalt on the road instead of a 2-inch thick or 3-inch, we're going to make trouble. Good trouble, but we're going to point it out. If you're not putting in the curbs, if the drainage thing is not being done properly, they now have a stake in the whole thing and they can now say, hey, do it right. So there's gonna be that citizen vigilance, I call it. And that's a good thing. And so we look forward to see how that goes. Two important aspects: our own money doing it and the citizens being involved in getting it done. The roads in Jamaica are in a parlous state. As a matter of fact, in some areas you can't even call them roads. You have to call them ponds. You drop in them, you drown. I heard that story about a man who fell into one of these ponds. You could call it pothole, into one of these ponds, and all 4 tires were damaged. So that is what we're dealing with. And this program was signed off on today. The government signed the contract to roll out this program, to begin this program in this month. So in the next week or so, we should be hearing that road work has started in some area. And then next year, rolled out across the country so that people can begin to see and feel that this is more than promise, and that promise has become fulfillment. And that's a good thing. Whether it is done under the JLP or done under the PNP, it is a good thing for the country. And the country will, breathe a collective sigh of relief when they see some of these gorges that they had to be avoiding being filled in and barber greened and carpeted. That's what we want to see. People will feel better. The contract was given to Czech. It's a China Harbor company. People talk about the involvement of the Chinese, but what they call the procurement guidelines, that is a process by which government goes about selecting and vetting and getting people to do the work, simply. And one could argue, well, this should be given to Jamaican contractors and all that sort of thing. But Jamaican contractors will be involved. But a big project like this can't be just divided up into many, many segments and this man go over there, so I'll press something and this one. No, it has to be properly centralized and organized. And to tell you frankly, Czech has proven its worth. It has done the highways, it has done large construction projects in the country, and it has good, what we call good bona fides to commend it. But the work that they do must be under surveillance. And this is where the National Work Agency, the government's agency, your agency, my agency, will supervise and see that the work is done properly. I'm not going to just jump out there and being fully gung ho and say, boy, everything is going to be rosy, because I know that with every big project like this, there is always lurking below there the possibility for corruption, for things not being done as it ought to be done. And so, again, just like you're going to have citizen vigilance in dealing with the crime situation, we're going to have citizen vigilance in dealing with seeing to it. Get out there in your community when a road is being done. Be a part of it. Watch it. And don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to bring whatever concern you have to the public. Call Nationwide, call RJR, call any of these public station communication outfits and tell them what is going on. Keep them under scrutiny and pressure. Do the right thing. It's a lot of money being spent, and we need to get it right. Doesn't make sense when you do a road now, and then the next shower rain, the next storm, the next hurricane, you back out there again. Because you like I said, they put just a centimeter of asphalt on the road. Now, those things must be things of the past. But the government has gone a step further. The Prime Minister today declared a national emergency for roads, for repair of roads. Because, we've had 2 storms back and back in Jamaica. We had Hurricane Beryl, and then we had this one of these I don't remember the name of that other storm that brushed us again not long after, and then other little weather systems that dumped a lot of rain on the country. By the way, what are they doing with all that water that has been dumped? They have to run, the water has to run off somewhere. Can't they collect it in some tank or reservoir for distribution for irrigation purposes? Anyway, that's just another thing, but it just struck me that, a lot of water has been dumped on the country and they just run off into the aquifers and so on. Collect it, harvest it, and use it for irrigation. Can't be that hard. Right, but with all that water that has been dumped, the roads are among the first things to feel the effect of too much water. And water just has to get find a little crack, and seep under it. And before you know it, lift the whole thing. And so anytime you see a little crack developing in the road and people keep driving over it, you're rest assured it won't be long before it turns into a pond if it is not addressed. And so I hope, because this has been one of the big bugbears, successive governments in Jamaica have not been good at maintenance. They don't maintain anything at all. Right now, we have a crisis of maintenance in the country. You hear it from the lawyers and the courthouse with the broken down toilets. You heard it from the police in terms of their residences. You hear it about the AC air conditioning system at Bustamante Children's Hospital. And you hear when you go into some of these government offices and places that they have people to sit and wait, the situations are so appalling. Not to mention the markets. You go and you can't find a decent place to ease yourself if nature calls. A crisis of management. of maintenance. We don't do routine maintenance. I know as a landlord that if you don't keep up with maintenance, every single cent you get in rent just goes through the window. You wait 1 or 2 years and you're not painting, you're not removing that piece of broken glass or a window or so. And before you know it, you're into some big box to deal with it. Right? And government no less. But that is a big problem in Jamaica. And I hope that there have been mechanisms worked out where the government can be very, you know, careful that a robust maintenance program. Because roads don't last forever. But if you maintain them properly, when you see signs emerging of dilapidation, of problems, of wear and tear, and you get on top of it, you can save yourself a lot of problems on the road. It's like the human body. The human body has to be maintained, or it will pop down on you. You have to maintain it, man. Just take it for granted and go on living the way you want to live. Do whatever you lifestyle you want to indulge. And one day you pay a price for it. Breaks down. Got to maintain it. Adequate sleep, proper food, drink enough water. Just a few things, few tips. All right, so that's where the government is going to be rolling out this program. Like I said, they signed off today. And I'm very excited about this. I think you'll probably hear it in my voice. I'm excited about the roads being fixed because I've had a couple times, couple times well that I've fallen into sinkholes. And I'm sure I'm talking to many of you who have had that experience. It's not an easy thing to change a tire. It looks simple. It's not all that easy, you know. So just from that point of view, people will feel a little better. The front ends, their shocks, and all these other parts of the car that just get damaged. So I'm excited about this, and I hope that you are too. And I hope that we can bring a better sense uh, to the work that is being done, all for the betterment of Jamaica, land we love. All right, friends. Well, that's gonna do it for this evening. If you like the program, just give me a thumbs up, and most importantly, send it to somebody. There's a share possibility for you to share what you're hearing. Just click on it and send it off to a friend or two. That's how we keep the thing going. And I'll be here again next Thursday. And next Thursday, I'm going to concentrate on the United States and international and affairs. I thought it was better for me to just do one program each evening, concentrating on like Jamaica, like I did this evening. And then next week I'll do that, and then we interchange and like that, rather than truncate, part of it Jamaica, part of it the US. I don't think that was working too well. So, you have to recalibrate and turn around and do things in a different way. So that's how I'm going to be doing it from here on. Jamaica, America, international matters. Jamaica, international matters, whatever. All right, friends. So thank you for joining me again. And again, we're moving towards Christmas. Enjoy yourselves, put up your lights, do your shopping, watch your spending, hug your kids, pamper your kids. Mommy, let me get that. Mommy, I want that. Can't have it. All right, and don't get yourself into any debt. Excessive debt, at least. If you get a little, then fine. But watch your credit card. Watch your credit card. And your debit card. But especially the credit card. When you're not using cash, it's easier to just spend. You have to be counting out. You've got to be counting out. Why? It's too much. It's too much. Then you have a little card. You have a little card, and you just swipe it. Doesn't work. So I word to the wise. Anyway, let me not be the Grinch that steals your Christmas. Have a good night. Thanks again for joining me. And in all that you do, walk good. Good night.